All right, let's go to Danny on line number 1. How you doing, Danny, my friend?
Hey, how you doing?
Talk to me.
Long time no speak. Danny, I'm the thought wrestler. We had some conversations a while back.
I think I remember that tag. Talk to me, my friend.
Well, I wanted to just give some credence to the idea that there are people, and specifically people in the inner cities and in the black community, who are avoiding the 2016 election for the sole purpose of acquiring more political capital moving forward.
Really?
All the demagoguery of Donald Trump, and I do believe 100% that his soft fascism would be horrible, but for someone living in the inner cities that's already facing those sort of living conditions and some of the stop and frisk tactics that we've seen, exactly how much worse would their life get under a Trump administration?
All right, I can tell you exactly how much worse it can get. First of all, I think it is important for most Americans who maybe live in lily-white areas in this country or are not familiar with black folks in general to tell you that the vast majority, in as much as when you see a black conglomeration of folks in Philadelphia or New York or in certain parts of Houston or wherever in these major cities, unlike what Donald Trump believes, because again he isn't a multicultural type guy, most black people don't live in dire straits. Most black people don't live on hard times. Most black people are not poor. I mean, the stereotype that Trump is talking to is really foreign to the vast majority of black people. As a black man myself, my only fear is one that you did mention, in fact, and that fear is anytime I get stopped by a cop, I know that the cop has a propensity to be more violent with me, so that I accept. But Trump can do nothing about that. Those are all local issues. So when you tell me, my dear friend, that somehow why not try Trump, let's say in the neighborhoods or wherever you're talking about? First of all, that would be a minority of the black population you're speaking about. Remember, when Trump talk about how bad things are for black folks, he's not talking for the majority of black folks. He's talking about poor black folks in inner city neighborhoods that are in dire straits. And that does not represent the majority of black people. That's the first thing that America needs to clear their heads up. And that is one of the things why those comments by Mr. Trump is offensive. So assuming you accept that tenet then, to believe that somehow by you don't have anything to lose, yes, I have a lot to lose, and the vast majority of black folks have a lot to lose, even if it were true from his heart that he was going out there to clean up the inner city. Because the truth of the matter is, that's not the real issue that affects black people in this country. The real issue in this country is you solve the systemic racist problem in this city that affects everybody else, and you solve the black problem. It has nothing to do with the conditions solely in the inner cities. Those are conditions that exist because of externalities that I'm talking about.
No, and I respect that. And I guess maybe the point I'm trying to make is that there is a small subset or a subsegment of people that I know specifically who have tried to engage the political process. They have conducted rallies. They have attended events. They've been part of their local governments. And for 4, 8, 10, 12 years, they've not seen anything change. I mean, the fact that Black Lives Matter and the rash of police shootings caught on video wasn't even a subject in the presidential debates. It was something that affected people negatively. So their thought, and they're not supporting Trump. They're just abdicating their support for a party that they feel is taking them for granted.
Okay, if I may respectfully answer that, my friend, I think it is not. By the way, I watched every single debate line for line. I blogged it. I got the transcripts. I read it because that's what I do. And the fact of the matter is, yes, it was addressed. And the great thing about how it was addressed is it wasn't addressing, the police shot this guy or whatever. The way Hillary Clinton addressed it specifically is through policy proposals that were recommended, some by the president and others. And that is what's important. It's easily to flash to just go ahead and say police shootings. You have to remember one thing, and I spoke to this with a couple of police officers that called into the show. Police officers are no different than America. Police officers are America. And what you are seeing is America with the power to kill. The average American doesn't have the legal power to kill. The police officer has the legal power to kill. And what needs to change is a change of how we address systemic racism. And anybody decides that we want to read, all we have on candidates is what they claim their policy is going to be. And when we look at different sites, when we look at what Hillary Clinton claims her policy is going to be, what Donald Trump claims his policy is going to be, which is pretty slim, that is all we have to go by. Now, after the election occurs, and this is what we have been poor at doing, my friend. All of us have been poor at doing this. Well, when I say all, I mean the masses. And that is hold people accountable. In other words, when we elect somebody, we don't say we got the candidate we want and sit back and watch them do nothing. And that included Obama as well. I tell you something. I am guilty when Obama just got elected to not put the pressure on his butt on certain issues, because as the first black president, we knew everybody was after his butt. So
I think we were all guilty of that. I mean, both of us wrote numerous articles defending the attacks that he faced on his person, his family.
Right.
But we didn't bear critique to some of the decisions that were made that negatively affected us.
Exactly. And what I'm saying now is, because we've already had this person in office, my friend, we won't, and now let's assume that we get Hillary as the next president, we won't make, as progressives who really want change, we won't make that mistake again. We'll talk about holding accountable. But for the people who says, well, let's go to Trump, there is too much of a backstep that would create. I can name policy after policy that would get effected under Ryan that makes that a bad proposition. In other words, we can name policies. In other words, Donald Trump doesn't have a lot upstairs, and his policies will be Paul Ryan's policies. And I can name item by item within Paul Ryan's policy that will materially affect you, will materially affect black folk, will affect the Appalachian folk, and all the folks without means. And that is what I'm talking about. That is what I'm trying to get at. And that's what I'm saying. I understand the people who want to blow the system up. I understand the people who the system have left behind. I understand all of that. I'm saying let's have a new normal. And that new normal is, let's go ahead and when this election is over, hold them accountable. And it's going to take people like you and others to go out there and keep the pressure on.